Okay, good afternoon. This is Richard Hsu, host of Hsu Untied. Today I'm really thrilled, pleased, and so honored to have with me as my guest the esteemed Julian Lennon, who's a musician and now a photographer. Julian, welcome to the program.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'm happy to be here, honestly, and it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too.
Yeah.
So, Julian, let me just start by asking you. Obviously, you're so well known as a musician, an accomplished musician. Tell me a little bit how you got into photography and when did that become something you became interested in?
Um, well, the short of it is that I knew a lot of photographers, and one of my favorites was actually a friend of mine called Timothy White, who's a celebrity photographer of sorts, magical stuff. And I was working with some friends doing a charity song, and we needed a single cover. And he sent me all the single covers to make some choices, and I decided, without really letting him know, that I'm going to do some editing. And he was quite surprised when he received my edited versions, which he liked. But he said, "How did you know how to do this?" I said, well, I didn't. It's like me playing by ear music. It's trial and error. I just wanted to play around and see what I could do. And it was suggested. He said, well, have you got any photographs? Do you want to show me some? And so I had some things, nothing I was necessarily proud of, but I had a habit of taking many photographs of clouds. Because over the years of travel, touring, etc., that one of the times that was I felt really at peace. Most people will sleep on a plane. I had trouble sleeping, so I would love sunrises and sunsets, and I would just love the cloud formations, and it would always be a moment for me of total reflection, looking back on looking forward, and looking at every aspect of life, or just being at total peace, not thinking about anything at all. And I loved that sentiment, that moment, that just nothingness, but just pure beauty of this world before us. And so he and I went through about 1,000 images of clouds, and we came up with about 15 that we really loved. That a lot of people thought when they saw them, because I didn't know what I was doing, so not the quality wasn't always there as far as the pictures, but a lot of the pictures looked like they were paintings. So the work started being called painterly. So I went, okay, I can go with that. But at the same time that I was about to put the first exhibition on, all about clouds, I was invited by the boys from U2, who are friends of mine, who said, we know you like to take photographs. Do you want me? Edge said, do you want me to ask the boys if you can take a few while we're writing and rehearsing? I said, of course, but I'm very timid, very shy. And so I'd always taken it from the perspective of, hiding in the corner, not getting in their way. And I've been that way ever since, really. I don't want to interfere with whatever process is going on before me. I just want to capture a moment that I see that makes me feel a certain way, positive, good, bad, emotional in some way, shape, or form. And so for the first exhibition, I said, I will only do this with your guidance, Timothy, as my mentor. We were able to add, a number of U2 images as well. So it was like the yin and the yang in many respects, in that we had, at the beginning of the first exhibition, the first room was filled with just these beautiful painterly clouds, and then behind this wall was a bar, which was the rock and roll area, which was a very dark room with all the rock and roll images that I had. And so it was an interesting introduction into the process of photography, and that really set me on a. I mean, it was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. The first show that I did was probably is equal to the first music live performance that I ever did, if not a fraction scarier, because the idea was that, okay, here's this kid from rock and roll royalty, who's always tried to make his way in music and has done okay at it. And now he wants to be a photographer. And I was thinking, oh, they're going to crucify me. They're going to crucify me. But the reviews were probably some of the best I've ever had in my life by some very serious journalists. And that really inspired me just to follow that kind of weird dream that had now really opened up after the first exhibition, and that really made me want to discover, what can I do now? What can I do? Where can I go? Who can I see? What also with my White Feather Foundation, I started traveling a lot, to Ethiopia and Kenya and Colombia, to see indigenous tribes around the world and people who were suffering and having a hard time of it. And with the camera in tow, it was never my intention to really make collections out of that. But once I was there in situ, things changed. And so the camera is just generally in the bag all the time now. And so whatever, if I get affected by something visually, emotionally, I just have to take a picture of it. It's part of my makeup now. I have to do it. Anyway, I'm sorry for rambling so
it's
much.
a really
I tend to do that. So stop me whenever you need to stop me.
Fascinating. Well, tell me, how do you, which do you like more? Do you still like taking the nature scenes, the cloud kind of thing, or now are you pretty much focused on people and situations?
No,
where
there's no favorites in that world. It's like there's no favorites for me in music. I can love classical, jazz, acoustic. It's whatever just appeals to me as an artist, as a person. I can't just say, well, I can only work in this direction. Because clouds move me. I'll never stop taking pictures of clouds that I see that really move me. And if I can see a person's face or a child's face or a situation. I mean, the book that I've just finished, Life's Fragile Moments, it for me, this is the first book that I've ever done, photography book, and Noise, the publishers, were generous enough to let me run with it. I said, listen, a lot of people don't know I'm a photographer. I'd really, if we can, like to use the book to show the public examples of every corner that I reach in regards to photography. So to me, it was about including, for the most part, the best of the best of all the collections and all the work that I'd done. And that was a tough one, let me tell you, to have a collection, say, from Istanbul or Cuba that was 40 images, just life in the middle of it all. And then to have to cut that down to 4 images, telling the same story in 4 images as 40. And I'm going, how is this possible? How am I going to do this? Anyway, at the end of the day, I managed it. And then when the idea of the exhibition came to fruition, I thought, well, how am I going to do this? And the logical thing for me was, okay, well, use that as the base, use that as the backline of what I'm doing here, because this way, I've already edited the show down. It's already done. So I followed the kind of rules of how we approached breaking the subjects up. And funnily enough, in between the collections are images of clouds for the most part. So you have a break between the heaviness of maybe or the grittiness of some New York scenes, and then you go into a cloud sequence, and then you'll be into the middle of Cuba, and so it was a nice way to give it this kind of flow where people could breathe between not only sections in the book, but sections in the exhibition as well. So that's how I approached it. But it's been grueling. And the only way that I think that I actually managed to do it, because it's 157 images, which is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest exhibition I ever did was at the Leica Gallery in LA, and that was 50 images for a collection called Cycle, which was a trip around the South China Seas. I found a company based out of London who built me a virtual gallery down to the millimeter of the exact space that I was going to be using in Venice for this exhibition.
Yeah.
And without having done that, there's, you can imagine things to a certain degree, but you're not going to be able to tell sizing, from your imagination. So with having every room, every board, every area that was going to be used sized, I was able to size the images for the exhibition. So it's the first, every image in this exhibition is for this exhibition only, predominantly, so I mean, it was down to the wire until literally the last 10 days. It's the final little changes. And what if we do this? And no, let's not change anything, please. Anyway, I will. Once the exhibition is over, I will actually make the virtual gallery available to the public too. So, because I've always said, one of the most humbling things I've ever felt was when I get these letters from people across the world who are, either disabled or financially they can't travel, and it's impossible for them to get to see the work or go to the places that I've been to. And that's what some of the thanks have been. If I'd never seen your collection of, these children and water wells in Ethiopia, or Kenya, I would never really know or be able to empathize with these people or understand their lives. And so that's the idea of making this exhibition virtual to the public after the fact. I thought was a really nice idea, because then I could share this with the people who can't be there.
Totally.
It's that simple.
Yeah. How are you dividing your time now between music and photography? Obviously, you're still producing.
Not. Okay. Well, listen. I think when you have pretty big projects like this, you really have to focus on what's at hand. There's no other real choice. I mean, I have to say that there were moments that I did take a few days break here and there and work on some musical projects with other people. As long as someone else is driving that musical project, I'm able to pop in and out of that. It's the only way. But if it's a big project, you have to have the focus and dedication for that. Otherwise, it's just not going to come to fruition the way you want it to. But there are musical projects ongoing. I hope to be releasing an EP later this year, and I've got something coming out on on the 23rd, which is actually a remix of an old song called "I Should Have Known," um, from an album "Photograph Smile" quite a few moons ago.
Yeah, okay.
That I just thought the song never really saw the light of day and deserved a little more
I see. Huh.
light. And so I bizarrely briefly, when I'm in LA, which is where most of my working team resides, I always try and find one day a week or one afternoon to get in the car,
Yeah.
roof off, drive over the Santa Monica Mountains or wherever I can, and end up finding the sunset at the end of the day. And I was taking these other friends for this trip. I think I know more roads in California than most people, purely because I drive so much. But and I was showing them this trip down to this beautiful beach, and one of them was a videographer and director. And as we arrived at sunset, and I don't know why, I had the song in my head, and I said, "Yeah, it'd be really nice to just make a very simple, reflective video of me walking along the beach, with this song that I've had an idea of remixing for a long, long time now." And literally, from the weekend to the next week, we filmed it, put it all together, and hence this is why we have, I Should Have Known being released on August 23rd.
Yeah.
So there's always, again, most of all of the things that I do come from organic inspiration. So, if something appears or comes to me, or I feel it has to feel right. I think one of the key things, and a lot of people are recognizing this, whether it's, well-known actors or artists, that they're all kind of saying, you really, really got to stick with your gut instinct. You've got to follow your guts. If something is leaning, I mean, that's how I work. It has to really mean something for me to do something these days. And I'm lucky enough that there's plenty to do. I never run out of things to do.
Sure.
So something's driving me forward. And the pleasure of it too. But I'm one of those people also that after 20 minutes of lying still on the beach, I want to kill myself. I need to get up and drive around an island, or do something, or discover the culture or the food, or I can't sit still. I've never been one of those. But I think I might have a good sleep coming up soon after this exhibition. That's for sure.
Well, do you find the photography and music, I mean, do you find that they sort of are synergistic? I mean, do they use different parts of your brain? I mean, does a musical idea pop in your mind when you're trying to take a photograph, or as you're working on a piece of music, a photography idea comes in? How do the two synergies work together?
Well, I think there's great. I think they're very, very connected for me artistically, because from the concept of a song idea to the recording to the mixing and then releasing, it's not dissimilar for me, in the sense that how I've worked a lot is through, believe it or not, and I didn't believe it myself, is actually through post-production and the editing process. Generally, I'll have an idea of a picture, but I'm not sure what that picture will be until I get back to my screen, and then I can start looking at it. And how this really came about, just to be brief, is that I was asked literally half an hour before this event happened, but I'm acquaintances with Prince Albert of Monaco and his now wife, Princess Charlene. And I was asked to take pictures of her 10 minutes before the wedding. And I'm going, you're crazy. I've never done anything like that. And Vogue.com wanted them I wanted some of those images straight away. Um, and I'm going, well, oh, this is a bit above my pay grade, and I'm not being paid
Yeah.
at all. I never am. But anyway, so I took, you know, I was in this very small room with the hairdresser, the hairdresser's assistant, the makeup artist, the makeup artist assistant, the clothes person, all these assistants, and her in the middle, just looking in the mirror, kind of stunned, and going, and I'm saying, "Hi, I'm here. Listen, I won't be in your way. I'm just gonna, I'll be in the corner, fly on the wall." She said, "Jules, I don't think I can do this." And I said, "What do you mean?" No, she said, "I don't think I can do the photography thing." I said, "Listen, this is a moment in your life that will never ever happen again. It's historic,
Yeah.
and I will do you justice. I'm not. I'm really going to stay out the way." And I kind of had to persuade her, and she said, "Okay, okay." But it was tough, and I was really panicking as well because I really didn't know what I was doing. And I managed to get what seemed at the time like a couple of good shots, but I'd taken over 100, maybe more, in 10 minutes. So I came back to my place. I put everything up on the screen, and I looked at everything, and I'm looking at everything, going, I've got F all here. I've got nothing. I've got absolutely nothing. What am I going to do?
Uh-huh.
What am I going to do? The one thing that she told me to do, and I can tell the story now, was that she had a glass of champagne to calm her nerves, and she had a cigarette, and she said, "Whatever you do, don't make sure that you can't see that I'm having a drink or a cigarette." I'm going, "Of course, of course, of course." And with those words in mind, first and foremost, I thought, okay, let me edit the cigarette out. That's good. That's gone. Okay, champagne color. What am I going to do? Okay, desaturate it. It'll look like fizzy water. Okay, it's in a champagne glass, but there's a lot of water bottles around. Maybe I can get away with it. So I embarked on the idea of making it look like a 30s, 40s, or 50s black and white image. And I tried one, that was the first picture I tried. And I went, oh my God, Grace Kelly, Princess Grace. Why didn't I think of this? And the moment that clicked,
Yeah.
and I cropped that, and I made it look as though it was from that era.
Yeah.
Then I did all the other pictures like that, and it all worked.
Wow.
So it was just going on this flow, this organic flow,
Mm.
and finding the picture in the photograph, and so I've because it's guerrilla photography in many respects.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, quite a few of the images that are in the book and in the exhibition are taken in the back of a Jeep, traveling anywhere between 30 and 50 miles an hour, in the hopes that I'll get a shot. And I won't know until I get back, and then find out and edit and frame everything. And to my surprise, a lot of the photos in the exhibition were done in just that manner. So it's always interesting. I find that because I never really know until I get stuck in, so to speak. So and that for me is a thrill. And then once I find that, it's like it's getting the mix, the balance right. So the similarities for me are very, very similar.
Interesting.
It's getting this kind of message across without shoving things down people's throats, but just putting the truth out there as best as you can and sharing that love, in the moment.
So I know this exhibit's about to come up. You've got the book coming out. Do you have like a whole bunch of other new projects already lined up, or you're not even thinking about that until this is over?
Hell no. Listen, this has been nonstop. The last 5 years have been nonstop with the album Jude and that all that came with that, because that was a mighty amount of work too. That was 5 years of work, putting the album Jude together, and then there was all the promo. And let's not forget also, I had New York Times bestselling children's book trilogy, which and also exec producing, documentaries like Kiss the Ground and the follow-up Common Ground, and so there's always something going on. But and I'm in the throes of putting my memoir together.
Wow.
Not in the traditional sense of the word, because I don't want, I was born and then this happened. I don't want that. I found an alternative route, as I normally do. There's never, nothing ever goes down the straight road for me ever. But that's what makes it all interesting. But after all of the work of the past few years, the memoir has to take focus now, because we're hoping to release it next year, and a special edition with a lot more pictures in the following spring. I really need time to be able to do that. Again, there's a massive music project. Did that. Thank you. All good. Great. Thankful. Book projects. Now the biggest exhibition I think I'll likely ever do. Close to. And after this, I can, once I've done my introduction and said, enjoy. I'm going to disappear for a few months and breathe, and feel healthier, and less stressed, and more relaxed, and enjoy my life. Not that I don't, but I need to breathe a bit more and focus on the book and love life a little more. And I'll see everybody on the flip side. And I'm also moving home. So, throw that into the mix. That's just what you need to be doing, is packing one house and moving to another in the middle of everything else. So it is what it is. But I'm okay with it all. Again, thankful as always,
Yeah. Well, Jules, this has been a wonderful conversation. Feel so privileged and honored to have you this time with you. When you do,
I think I talked your ear off. That's the problem. You didn't get an edgewise. I'm sorry about that.
No, not at all. Not at all. So nice chatting with you. And when you do complete that memoir, I hope you'll come back and talk to me about it.
It would be my absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Richard.
This is Richard Hsu and Jules Lennon. Thank you.